Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Rick, we survived somehow a full week of college basketball. There were, along the way there were casualties. Yes, there's a lot of postponements, there's a lot of cancellations, and we're still dealing with stuff even today as well, but we made it through a week of college basketball. How was your Thanksgiving, by the way, before we get into all that stuff?
Due to dietary restrictions in my household, I had to eat 1.75 pies by myself.
Nice. What kind of pie?
A whole pumpkin pie.
Pumpkin pie.
And then half of a Costco apple pie, which is why it's actually 0.75 because that's bigger than a normal pie.
Right.
And word of advice, don't eat half of a pumpkin pie in one sitting. Especially after eating an entire plate of turkey and potatoes.
Nice, but everything was good for Thanksgiving?
Everything was delicious and good. I enjoyed it. How was yours?
Good. It was good. Got to hang out, just kind of stayed around here. And then I had game night with a bunch of my cousins on Friday, played a bunch of Jackbox
Okay.
for like 2 hours and just kind of had fun. Just had the house to myself. It was kind of nice, not gonna lie. Kind of missed you there. I definitely missed you, but it was nice.
I feel you on that one. I feel you.
Yeah, so again, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. I know this is coming out afterwards. Heads up, we're going to be changing our schedule. Usually we were going to think about having this on Mondays, but since we work during the day on Mondays and we can't really react to the top 25 changes, we're going to be posting on Tuesday now and get kind of our reactions to everything. Especially we're just going to basically be breaking down all the changes that happened in the top 25. Obviously give the highlights to the not so mid-major teams that are either receiving votes or got into the top 25 or why they lost their rankings. So overall, that's pretty much just what this is going to be like. So I guess our first ever somewhat segment, I guess, this has never happened with us before, by the way. We've never actually had a segment. Is our hello goodbyes.
Hello, goodbye.
We'll have Rick singing this song. We'll actually have a legit intro to all this stuff. But so our hellos. So hello to the top 25. 16 Virginia Tech, as well as 19 Richmond Spiders. Virginia Tech getting into the top 25 with wins over Radford 77-62, South Florida 76-58, and Villanova. Big win over Villanova, 81-73. Villanova was ranked 3, and then they dropped a ton after this loss. I think they dropped like 10 spots or something like that.
Yeah.
It was insane, but yeah. And then we'll get into Richmond's stats. We'll talk about them later because obviously we'll give them their chance to talk about what they did really well and what they can improve upon or what they're about to be facing. And then our goodbyes in the top 25, but are still receiving votes, UCLA and Michigan. And the not so mid-majors that are ranked, Gonzaga, still number 1. We will talk about them at the very end. 19 Richmond, who we're going to be talking about next, and then still getting votes, San Diego State University, St. Louis, Loyola Chicago, and BYU. Those are all the teams that are getting votes right now. What'd you see?
You said 19 Richmond, but you did not mention 16 Virginia Tech.
Well, Virginia Tech's not a mid-major.
Oh.
That's why. I'm just saying that they
got added.
These are the new teams to the top 25. Yeah, I know they aren't. No, Virginia Tech's an ACC team. Yeah, they're in the ACC.
They're not the AAC?
No, they're not the AAC.
Shout out UConn.
Big East. So all that this happened just this last week. We're just going to go over through a recap for most of the not so mid-majors, and then mostly we'll finish off typically with WCC stuff since we are West Coast fans and we are also big Gonzaga fans, as you cannot tell with what's behind us. I'm actually, funny enough I say that, and I'm wearing a Northeastern sweatshirt. Number 19 in hockey, by the way. You got blue there. You got Gonzaga blue somewhere. So Loyola Chicago still receiving a singular vote after not playing an entire game last week, and they're not going to be playing an entire game this week.
Because the smart people trust the Jesuits. Jesuits know 2 things. How to drink and how to be good at basketball.
So Loyola Chicago, we won't even talk about them next week too.
Nope.
This time
Their next game is like Wednesday or Thursday.
Of the following week against Chicago State. So the team that did break in the top 25, Richmond, number 19, their big win over 10 Kentucky. Forced Kentucky into 21 turnovers. They got 22 points off those turnovers, 10 steals. Okay shooting, but again, we're talking about someone that was in the top 10, 43.3% field goal, 7 for 25 3-points. However, in the first half, they did force 10 turnovers off Kentucky, but got 0 points. All 22 of those points came in the second half off the last 11 turnovers.
So that's really impressive by Kentucky to have that response of a defense and be able to get back and stop that kind of transition offense. And what that goes to show you is that if you read those stats in reverse, in the first half there were 10 turnovers and 0 points, which means in the second half there was 11 turnovers and 22 points, which almost means that that was a complete 180. Every single turnover in the second half averaged a 2-point bucket.
Yeah, so pretty much they were basically making every shot off the turnovers.
Yeah.
Which definitely is impressive. There was definitely something said in the locker room with that coach.
Yeah.
Why aren't you guys making shots off these turnovers? They are literally giving you the ball off these turnovers. And a lot of those turnovers too were because of fouls, like either charges or whatever, what was it, like the screens.
Do we know who the reffing crew was?
I don't know, and I don't want to be looking into that right
now. Was it WCC refs?
I mean, this is Richmond in Kentucky, so who knows? It hopefully isn't. And then Kentucky, on the other hand, Richmond were doing really good defending the 3-point shots. 0 for 10. The best you can ever do. However, Kentucky did get 21 offensive rebounds.
Well, see, the thing you don't know about all of those 3-point attempts, all of them were just really, really long oops to themselves.
just a drawn out pass play.
Yeah,
missing a
throw
shot.
it off the backboard, run in, and put your bounce back.
Yeah. So I mean, but it's surprising to see Richmond. They were getting votes last week. They weren't in the top 25, and then all of a sudden they jumped to 19. Even though it's kind of questionable offense or the defensive rebounding for them. So it's definitely going to be, that's definitely something they're going to have to work on. Like if they are going to be a top 20 team.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be surprising to see if they stay in the top 25, but definitely a strong performance. You're going against a blue blood.
Yeah. I mean, if they're going to play a press defense, which is going to force that many turnovers, then you're going to give up some presence in the paint because you're going to be pressing a lot really high off the, really high up on the court. And so if they get by you, they're going to get to the basket. And that's going to be something to keep an eye on to see if they can play at that high of a motor all year long.
Yeah. So, I mean, once again, welcome to the top 25, Richmond. Hopefully we'll keep talking about you and keep seeing you up there with that number next to you. Another team getting votes, St. Louis absolutely dominated South Illinois University Edwardsville, 89-52. And with these games, it's hard to really highlight the stats of like what matters. Like you can't highlight the score, like what we were just seeing with Richmond and Kentucky. Like beating Kentucky, yes, that is something that if you just say the score, that's something to be proud of. So I like to look at certain stats when you are playing these teams that, yes, aren't going to be making the tournament unless they win their conference. What kind of stats do you look for? At least what I like to look for is how is their passing? How did they do on defense? How was their shooting overall? Was it consistent between the entire players, either through their starters or the bench points? Something about like how was their shooting that way? Was it everyone or was it just a few people that were making these shots? So that being said, St. Louis, 17 assists. They were passing the ball really well. 13 steals, 14 offensive rebounds, 5 guys scoring double digits.
Yep.
That's solid. That shows me, okay, you guys were playing as a team. It wasn't just one person. You guys were passing the ball around. You were trying to find those open lanes. However, I will say the blemish in all of this, 14 turnovers.
And if you look at that turnover to assist ratio, that's only just above a 1.0. I don't want to do the real math of that.
14, 17.
What is 3/14? I don't know. So what I'm looking at with that is it's probably like a 1.2-ish, 1.2, 1.3, somewhere in that range turnover, or assist to turnover margin, which is actually pretty weak. That means that there's some sloppy play, and it probably occurred mostly in the paint. Because if you have 13 steals, then that means your perimeter guys are probably gonna be playing a little bit closer and a little bit harder. And so how does that counterbalance? Because if you look at 13 steals and 14 offensive rebounds, that means you have 27 extra possessions. But then if you look at 14 turnovers, you're now back down to only 13 extra possessions, which is a lot.
Right. Yeah. So it's definitely, so like I like to look at these just like little stats, like I said. But the next big stat, and this isn't the best team that LSU has put up, especially in recent years. I felt like last year and the year before LSU has been better.
Yeah.
But still, having the win over LSU for St. Louis, 85-81.
Yep.
That's still impressive.
It's a gut check win.
Yeah, and 55.4% field goal shooting, 10 for 24 on the three-point line, 21 assists, and they were down by 10 at the half.
Yeah.
Like, they rallied back against this LSU team. Yes, like I said, not the most impressive LSU team that we've seen in recent years, but it's still a team that could possibly make the tournament.
Yeah. If their guards are hot in March, watch out. If their guards or injury bug or something happens to them, I predict that they fade. So keep an eye on their guard.
Yeah, especially, and I mean, they got more assists this game against LSU than they did against Southern Illinois University.
Yeah,
that to me is impressive. I mean, I could talk about the 10 3-point shots that they made. Like, that's still really good, especially against a tough team and their field goal shooting. But that 21 assists is what highlights it for me. That's definitely the most impressive stat that I've seen, because you really want to get in that 15 assist range.
15 is the low end of good.
Yeah, that's going to be like your average that you're going to be seeing. So it's definitely. See if St. Louis keeps climbing, keeps winning, see if they can keep going. All right, another team out in the West Coast, San Diego State, with the win over UC Irvine, 77-58. Again, it's one of those teams that they probably will win their conference and get into the tournament. But again, it's not going to be those like dominant teams that you're going to be seeing. So what did they do? 14 assists, as we were talking about. 13 offensive rebounds, however. 13 for 32 on the three-point shot. However, just over 40% on the field for shooting. And, they did force 25 turnovers from UC Irvine. But 43% on the field, or 40.3% on the field, even though you got 13 offensive rebounds.
So before I judge that too harshly, I have seen a lot of WCC teams get held to the low 30s, even high 20s on shooting percentage. And I've seen Gonzaga be held to the mid 40s against a good team. And so 14 assists, their assist percentage is low, so they had to manufacture a lot of shots, which also probably means that they had a lot of contested shots. So props to UC Irvine. What sounds like to me is the Anteaters, while their offense may not be very good, only putting up 58 points and giving up 25 turnovers. It sounds like the UC Irvine Anteaters.
That
defense sounds good.
They had to step up for that, even though they were making those offensive mistakes for the turnovers. But man, this should have been a complete blowout for San Diego. It feels like, with those turnovers.
Yes.
With those if you just look at the turnovers alone.
Which also makes me wonder how the minutes distribution was, and whether or not it was a little bit of a testing ground for coach to see how new players came in.
Right. Yeah. Especially like this year, like you didn't have like those practice games. This last week you have to figure it out.
Yep.
Good luck. Good luck. You're playing against Kentucky. You're playing against, we're about to talk about UCLA, or you're playing against Kansas when we get to Gonzaga. Good luck. You have to figure out this roster and lineups that you're gonna have to be playing with.
Yep, you got to figure out your rotation.
Yeah, so that could have been the test to see like what it was. And then speaking of which, like we just mentioned, they played UCLA, who did just drop out of the top 25. They were ranked 22 at the time. Similar score, 73-58. San Diego State was leading at the half, 34-28, and I just kind of broke down the halftime and final stats. San Diego State, pretty much across the board, very much improved at the half.
Yes.
There was something said at the half, both on the offensive end and defensive end. I mean, comparing the field goal shooting, San Diego State 38.7% from the field, UCLA was 50% at the half. Turnaround 46.4% from the field for San Diego State, UCLA 39.5%.
What that tells me is that San Diego State's coaching staff is strong, and you're not going to have a team routinely talked about in the top 25 or as favorites in the Mountain West if they didn't have a strong coaching staff.
Yeah.
But you see the halftime adjustments made by the coaching staff and the coachability of the players to pick up those changes. So that's what stands out to me. And also, if you look at all of UC Irvine and then half of the UCLA game, you're looking at coaches figuring things out, finding out the strengths, weaknesses, how well their team gels. And the second half of UCLA, they put it together and they turned it on.
Right, yeah, that was impressive. I just seeing that breakdown between San Diego State, and especially like San Diego State was one of the mid-major teams from last year, and we talked about what they lost.
Yeah,
it wasn't as drastic as what we saw with Dayton, but they did lose quite a bit.
Yeah,
and just to see how much that they were still able to recover from, and still took it to a top 25 team, even though it's UCLA and a Pac-12 team.
Who, honestly, I'm surprised SDSU didn't pick up a ranking this week, because I do know that their players took it as an insult when they didn't come out in the top 25 this year. They said,
especially to almost beat UCLA by 20 points. I mean, it was like what, 15 points, 17 points there, but it's a little surprising they didn't get that top 25.
Yeah. So either people were like, "Ooh, we really overvalue UCLA," or they're continuing to sleep on SDSU and make SDSU mad.
Yeah, so it's definitely going to see, like, I expect at some point in time this season, if they obviously keep winning, if they obviously don't lose a game, that we're going to definitely see San Diego State and St. Louis in the top 25 at some point in time this season.
I'm less confident in St. Louis. I'm wondering if they might be a little bit of a paper tiger, and so I'm wondering if we won't see them break into the top 25 until February.
Yeah, like later on.
Yeah,
I can definitely see that going on as well. And I don't know exactly what their schedule is going forward and what their upcoming games are supposed to be looking like. But yeah, definitely. And then teams that I guess, like, this is kind of like a side segment, I guess, from the hello goodbye segment, but teams that we aren't seeing getting votes anymore, but mid-major teams that were getting votes this past week, that I still at least want to just give a shout out to, and just kind of, I mean, more like wonder why they aren't getting votes anymore, or just see like what happened. So UNC Greensboro going against Little Rock, they did win 77-70, but I don't know if it was just these.
What
other
about
teams.
That win is impressive? You're playing Little Rock.
Yeah.
You win by 7. And you shoot 27% three-pointers. You shoot 61% from the free throws. You scored 16 points off of the free throws. Like, I mean, 18 offensive rebounds against Little Rock doesn't mean diddly squat.
It's still a stat that at least want to like throw out. Yeah. It's like, okay, yeah, like they're still fighting for the ball off these shots.
I mean, if you're only going to win by 7, I hope you are fighting.
Right, but they still shot 45%, which is still pretty good.
Yeah.
And again, it's against Little Rock, so no, it's not all that good, but
I mean, it may sound like we're kind of shitting on you, Little Rock, and we are.
Well, I do think there is predictions that they will win their conference, though.
Little Rock?
Yeah, Little Rock. I forget what the conference that they're in, but there is predictions that they will.
Is it like the Meek or something?
This might be Sunbelt.
Okay.
Yeah.
But point is, 18 offensive rebounds while shooting 46%, 45.8.
Yeah.
That means majority of your misses you are gathering back up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you're getting your second chance points.
Right. So my question is, if it's that easy to gather up that rebound, why couldn't you get to the rim and get good points anyway?
Right.
So, and then you give up 17 turnovers. So what it tells me is that it was just sloppy play. They weren't good shots, and that's why they didn't get their votes. Is I'm sure that whoever had been voting for them watched that game and went, oh.
Well, it's also too, it's like you look at those stats as well with like everything overall, the 45.8% field goal, the 18 offensive rebounds, the 17 turnovers. Okay, so you're telling me that either you made the shot, you missed it but got it back and made the shot again, or you turned the ball over.
Yeah.
Like there's no in between of all that stuff. Like it's not like you missed the shot, Little Rock got the rebound.
Yeah, I really want to see what those defensive rebounds
it's literally, I'm sure it's probably the same exact. I'm sure it was 18 versus 18 to be honest. But like what I also want to highlight with this too, it's like yes, your 3-point game wasn't on, and yes, that happens where you get a game where it's 26%, but free throws 61.5%, and they had 26 chances.
So that's 10 missed free throws, which count towards the rebounding, but don't count towards the field goal percentage.
True.
So that could also be a major impact in there.
True.
So Greensboro, if you're watching this, pull your ish together, and you can get some respect back. But that's not it.
Hold on. Sorry, I have something hidden for you that you didn't when you were going through these notes. Okay. I didn't want you to see because I kind of wanted to see what your reaction was to this. And then UNC Greensboro, they did get their game with Winthrop postponed. I think that was just kind of like the day of. I'm sure it was related to everything that was going on. But unfortunately, they didn't get their second game last week, so that could have maybe swayed some of the options too if they just absolutely dominated Winthrop. But hopefully we'll see you guys back. Yeah. I hope to see you guys back. I hope to talk about you guys a little bit more. Another team that's probably the more unfortunate out of all of these teams that we will not probably be talking about anymore throughout the season, unfortunately. Northern Iowa. Rough start to the season. Starting off with a loss to Western Kentucky, who has been... Western Kentucky we'll probably be talking about. Okay. I can see they've got...
The Hilltoppers! Their mascot is terrifying.
But Western Kentucky, we'll probably be talking about them soon. Like they've started off with some pretty dominant wins this season, or at least some close games that I've been seeing overall. So Northern Iowa lost to Western Kentucky 93-87. Northern Iowa down just pretty much all game. Mm-hmm. Their 3-point shooting percentage was 51 point something percent. Do you want to know how many 3-pointers they made? Can you take a guess about how many 3-pointers they made and how many they shot?
22 for 49.
Basically, they went 20 for 39 on 3-point shot, and they
take me to Vegas.
And they lost this game.
Okay.
If I told you a team put up 23-point shot,
they made 20.
If they made 23 pointers,
mm-hmm.
Is there a reason you should lose that game?
Yes. There absolutely is.
This should be a game where we're talking about where it's like 147-20.
No, because you're thinking of a good offense. You didn't put their stats. What is their points in the paint? 5?
Basically, I think they made a total of 29 shots that weren't free throws, obviously. So 9 2-point shots, 18.
So that comes out to be 78 out of their total 87 points.
Yes. They went off on the 3-point line. Field goal shooting, though, 46%. So it wasn't... They weren't really missing a whole lot, to be honest.
Well, when you only take 5 shots compared to 40, your percentages aren't going to get deflated.
I mean, sure, but then like the 81% from the free throw. I mean, look at these stats.
You know, they probably would have shot better from free throw if they'd moved back to the 3-point.
They would have sunk every shot. I think they only missed one. I think this was like 11 for 12 kind of a stat or something. It was something ridiculous like that. But let me tell you this again. 51.3% from the three-point line. They made 23 pointers. They shot 46 from the field, 82 from the free throw line.
Yeah.
How did they lose?
That next number you right there. And not only is it that next number, but it's also so obviously they don't have much post presence. And so if your opponent's able just to be like, whoop, lay in, even if you're shooting threes, like
and draining
them, you gotta pray that you keep pace. And then 17 turnovers.
So it's either you made the three or
you turned it over.
You turned the ball over.
And so if your opponent gets 17 extra possessions with easy guaranteed layups, and that's almost as many points as you scored off your threes.
It's just, oh my god. But okay, so then they kind of listened to the stat when they played against St. Mary's. They did unfortunately lose to St. Mary's by 2 points. They were up all game in this chance. Their biggest lead was 47-31, and then they gave up a 12-2 run, and then kind of recovered. Didn't say like, okay, we don't want to blow this game, and then gave up another run of 14-4 during the second half.
Classic.
Two different...
I didn't know Randy Bennett had it in him.
2 different 12 and 14 runs for St. Mary's that game. We will be talking about St. Mary's just shortly.
Randy Bennett knows how to make halftime adjustments? Right. Whoa!
Yeah. Not even like this number was in the second half, I think. The 47-31.
You know, Randy Bennett knows how to make
that first timeout, the first TV timeout in the second half.
Randy Bennett knows how to make adjustments.
But they were still shooting really well, 51% from the field. They listened to the 3-point opportunities. They were like, okay, maybe we should like
play in the paint.
Shoot some 2-point easy layup shots. 7 for 16 from 3 points, so they can shoot the 3 still. That is still a great...
No, what it was is they read the scouting report on St. Mary's and realized St. Mary's only shoots threes. And
we're not going to beat them at their own game.
Wait a second, if Western Kentucky can beat us by making layups, we can beat St. Mary's by making layups.
We're going to do what West Kentucky did against us and use it against St. Mary's. Almost worked.
Yep.
But 15 turnovers, 9 assists.
So you know that ratio I was talking about earlier?
Yes, they were not passing the ball. And notice how I didn't even give the assist stat for Western Kentucky, meaning like it wasn't good, it wasn't bad. It's probably it was probably in that 13 to 15 range. Yeah. Not even 10. Like I would consider 10 bad.
Okay.
Like me, if like it's below 12, like what
were you doing?
You're not passing the ball that well, or at least not getting those open lanes for your teammates. Yeah. And they allowed 10 offensive rebounds for St. Mary's.
Yep. And here's the thing, 15 turnovers. You're not going to win the game when you give your opponents 3 points.
What? You don't say. And then, unfortunately, they had a third game, which they also lost. So Northern Iowa will probably not be seeing you anytime soon, if at all, during this season. A loss to Utah State, unless if they win their conference.
No. They only gave up 10 turnovers against Utah State. If you can get that number down to 2 to 3...
So they're learning. So you see 17, 15, then 10. So they're learning.
Yeah. Also, only 9 free throw attempts combined average of all 3 games.
Yeah.
So, you don't foul them. Don't turn the ball over.
They're knowing.
Get fouled. That's how you win a game.
They're knowing. They at least know how not to charge the guy. So now, how do you get the blocking fouls to get the free throws? And I think the most free throws they've ever had in the game was 11. I think it was like 8, 9, 11, or something like that between these 3 games. Yeah, but they went back to the 3-point shot in Utah, 14 for 37. Not the 20 that we just saw in the first game. But still, a ton of 3-point shots that they had during that game.
Y'all need a petition to change your mascot to Yeet.
It's pretty much what they were doing the entire game. I mean, 39 attempts in the first game, 37 in the third game.
What do they do? Just dribble up to half court, go Yeet?
Just, I'm Stephen
Or,
Curry.
yeah, just go Curry!
Pretty much. Oh my god. But again, Northern Iowa,
That you suck.
it was fun to have you, but I like I said, unless you guys win your conference, I don't expect to see you guys back here and for us to talk about you, but we'll keep an eye on you, at least for you guys. So now on to the WCC. What we were just mentioning before was St. Mary's playing Northern Iowa, getting that 2-point win over them. St. Mary's did, however, started off with a 17-point loss to Memphis, got the 2-point win over UNI, and then a 13-point win over South Dakota State. Their average on the season so far, and this kind of is giving me the question that I'm going to ask you, Rick. Are St. Mary's going to be that number 3 team in the WCC this
Hell no.
year?
Hell no.
That's the biggest. I think that's going to be the biggest question of WCC is who's going to be this number 3 team.
Because not St. Mary's.
I mean, not with the three-point shots. I mean, and it's like, I mean, St. Mary's has, I mean, like you were mentioning before, it has been that kind of 3-point team.
Yeah.
That's definitely one of the focuses of their squad. 27.4% from the 3, and they take a lot.
Yeah.
They're averaging about 24 a game, which means that they're only making 6 or 7.
Well, you have here that Jordan Ford, Malik Fitz, and Tanner Krebs are all gone.
Yeah, they're all
They all graduated.
Graduated,
So,
or at least a junior. Or
If you were to
like
pull
that.
up the stats from Gonzaga at St. Mary's last year, what you would see is that over 80% of St. Mary's points came from Jordan Ford and Malik Fitz. Which means 20% of their points came from other players on their team, including Krebs. And so
and these were their three. These were their three guys.
They regressed hard.
Yeah,
They might have some people out there who can ball, but they don't have a team. They don't have a 5-man squad that can put on the floor to compete.
And this is also a young team too. Like they don't. Do they have a senior this year? I think they
I
have a
don't-
junior. In that
That's the thing is normally I know about somebody on St. Mary's team. Normally I can name one person and be like, I hate them. I can't name anyone right now.
I think
Like-
they may have one senior that I don't. If they do, it's not a starter.
Yeah. And
Maybe like one of them, like the very depth guys, like Rem, kind of a person.
Yeah.
Like that's. It doesn't. It's gonna be a rough St. Mary's squad this year. It feels like.
so I think that they're probably a top half team because let's be real, we have
Well, yeah, for WCC, yeah.
we have Portland, we have
Yes.
LMU,
Yes.
but
in San Diego in that mix, yeah.
San Diego might be a little bit better this year.
Right, yeah. And I mean, overall, WCC is getting better. There's teams that are stepping up.
Yeah.
But this isn't. But it's not equal to what St. Mary's did. You know how we've talked about like last year and the year before.
Okay.
Everyone's like progressing. This is a big jump for St.
St. Mary's is taking a big
Yeah.
step back, and so I honestly only feel comfortable saying Portland and LMU are the teams that I feel confident St. Mary's should finish above.
Yes.
I think Santa Clara has a chance to get above them. I think USF is going to finish above them. San Diego is improving. Pepperdine is going to be a top half team, if only because Colby Ross wills it into fruition.
Right.
And then I'm always high on Pacific, and I think they're going to be up there.
Yeah.
I looked up some stats on Pacific, and right now, currently, their team leader is averaging 2 assists per game, so that's not good.
That's the most assists for one of the
Yeah.
guys. Oh, jeez.
They have a 12-point loss to Nevada,
Okay.
and a 6-point win over UC Riverside. So it's not a good start for them. But
So then let's at least clear some things out of the way before we get into like who we think the number 3 team is going to be for the WCC. At least obvious 1 and 2.
Yeah,
I'm pretty confident that we can guess who's 1, who's 2. But obvious 1 and 2 Gonzaga that we'll get to at the very end. BYU is going to be the number 2 team.
easy.
That's easy. BYU will at least just give you
This BYU team could have won the WCC 5 years ago.
Yes. But BYU this past week, 3 wins. Not going to go too much into the stats because it's... Who are you playing?
Westminster, Utah, New Orleans, and Utah Valley.
Yes, and 108-59 win over Westminster. New Orleans 86 to 61, and Utah Valley 82-60. So it's
Fun note about Utah Valley. Coach Pope used to coach Utah Valley before he came to BYU last year. So anyway, cool. Moving on. Let's talk about what I think will probably be the third place team.
third place team. Yes. So the third place team. I didn't have anything on Pepperdine because they just didn't. I didn't include their stats just because they didn't have a big team.
Pepperdine?
Pacific. Yeah, they didn't have a big team that they played because the biggest team that you named there was Nevada.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
And they played them tonight.
Right. But at least big wins for the WCC into the top 25 when we could have had. Wasn't there another team that we could have had this last week that could have taken someone? Was it Pacific?
No, Pepperdine lost to UCLA.
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, that's why I have it here too. But yeah, Pepperdine took UCLA to 3 overtimes, which
Colby Ross took Pepperdine.
I'm surprised that and I mean everyone here, even like Gonzaga fans, St. Mary's fans, San Francisco fans, we were all pulling for Pepperdine to win this game.
Weirdly enough, Pepperdine fans weren't, because I don't know if Pepperdine fans exist.
And I just wanted them to not only beat UCLA because it's a Pac-12 team, but just to show the freaking WCC dominance over Pac-12.
Here's the thing about Pepperdine is you got Lorenzo Romar as your head coach.
Yes.
Romar's going to bring in top-tier dudes. He's going to let them ball out, and he's going to get them up for big games against teams with numbers next to them. And then they're going to go play LMU, and they have no motivation for it. They fall asleep at the wheel, and they end up winning a 4-point game against LMU, and everybody's like, Romar, be better as a coach, my dude.
But Pepperdine is one of the projections to be number 3 in the WCC.
The reason they won't be is because Lorenzo Romer. If this was 5 years ago, maybe. Because Gonzaga would not be nearly as good.
No,
this would have been pre-Kyle Smith at USF. And so all they would have had to do was take on BYU or St. Mary's and knock them out.
Yeah.
There would have been numbers.
5 years ago, Gonzaga. Yeah, because that was what? Stockton, Drake Guinness.
5 years ago would have been 2015. 2016 would have been the year before the national championship run. So that would have been...
so that was Sabonis.
That would have been Sabonis and Perkins and Karnowski.
And that was the year...
Not Perkins.
Well, Perkins.
Pangos.
Yeah, Perkins got his job broke that year.
Yeah, so it would have been Pangos' senior year.
I think... Well, and that was also the year...
Was that Wiltshire?
Karnowski... No, that was the year before. Karnowski got his back injury that year, too. I think we were missing Perkins and Karnowski that year. Right?
Yeah.
Because it was just Sabonis against Syracuse.
It was Wiltshire and... No, this is 2014. It was Wiltshire and Sabonis. No,
Wiltshire and Sabonis never played with you.
It was 2016. It was we only had 2 post players.
Yeah.
That was the year we lost to Duke in the Elite 8.
16? No, you're thinking 15. Because Duke won the 2015. 16 was when we lost to Syracuse. That was in Spain.
Okay.
I know that for sure.
Anyway.
But yeah. Enough about my backstory. But again, Pepperdine, yes, Pepperdine is getting better as the years go on. They might always be in that talk for the number 3 team now.
They will always be 4th, wanting to be 3, unless Lorenzo can bring in a better assistant coach.
Yeah. And then another
He'll have the dudes.
And then kind of another team that is fighting for that that 4th, 5th spot with Pepperdine. They kind of go back and forth too, but a big, massive win for the WCC. University of San Francisco, who, by the way, if we're going to be using every argument against the team that they won of, Gonzaga isn't an elite because they haven't won a championship. San Francisco has 2 national championships, and they beat Virginia, who only has 1.
Also, Virginia, only team to ever lose to a 16 seed.
Shout out UMBC. But big win, even though it was a 1-point win, but still a big win. 61-60, San Francisco beating the number 4 team who used to be number 4, Virginia. Not shooting the ball that well, though, with 39.7% from the field. They did make 13 threes, though.
Hold up. Let's put this 39.7% field goal in context. We're playing Virginia,
the number 1 defensive team in the nation.
Year in, year out.
Yes. And, I mean, even though it's the number 1 defensive team, only 8 turnovers from San Francisco.
Well, it's because they don't turn the...
Yeah.
Virginia doesn't turn the ball over. They make you use 29 seconds to jack up a corner 3 with a hand in your face. And then they get the rebound and then they go down and score on you.
Right. And I mean, it's also looking at the second half, like San Francisco almost blew this game too. Oh, there was one stretch, and I mean, for like, I don't want to use that word, especially against like San Francisco playing against Virginia. Like, this should have been at least more of a blowout.
It's more Virginia. Yeah. Virginia opted to not win this game.
Yeah, because I mean, there was a 5-minute stretch of 0 points for San Francisco, and the last 2 minutes, 0 points.
Yeah.
So it was 7 minutes within the second half of just San Francisco not scoring a basket.
And this is the same Virginia team that lit people up. I think it was 19 for 22 on 3-pointers in their first game.
Yeah.
Oh my God! In their first game of the season, they lit it on fire.
And it's surprising too, because it's like you don't think of Virginia as an offensive team, and it's like I put these stats down as like 5 assists and 3 for 12 from the 3-point line for Virginia. It's like, I mean, isn't that expected? That they just like
that is par for the course for Virginia from from 2 years ago or 3 years, whenever it was they lost. They didn't win the national championship.
2 years ago, yeah.
2 years ago.
No, 3 years ago, because they didn't have a
national championship. So 3 years ago. That's par for the course for Virginia from 3 years ago. The problem is, apparently they had dudes this year. Apparently they had offense, but it didn't happen. So credit USF. That is why I firmly believe that they are a solid 3rd place. And I think it's Pepperdine has 4th place to lose to Santa Clara. Santa Clara is going to finish 5th. St. Mary's 6th.
Wow.
And then Pacific probably 7th. Followed up by
LMU, then Portland. San Diego.
San Diego, then LMU, then Portland.
I can see. I can see that. I mean, just history wise, like it's gonna hurt me. It's surprisingly gonna hurt me to see St. Mary's drop that far. Like, just in terms of like pride and WCC.
So I work with
boosting the conference, but
we have other teams now. That's why we brought BYU in.
Yeah, it's gonna be weird to see St. Mary's go that far down, just because it's not like what I was saying before. It's not more so because like in previous years where it's like, okay, San Francisco's getting better, Pepperdine's getting better, Pacific's getting better. Like, this is combined, those teams getting better and St. Mary's just dropping.
Yeah, and so St. Mary's will be back. They need to get their next shipment of Australians, and then they'll be fine. Yeah. But they had a bad recruiting year. Yeah, Randy Bennett is reaching his ends. I don't know if he can take them to the next level, but credit Randy Bennett. He has stepped up his scheduling this year, and he started last year, and so he's making the right moves, and so they will be back, but they're going to fall this year. And my 2 coworkers, who are both St. Mary's alumni, have already sent me emails saying, we don't want to hear a single word this entire season. We give up. We acknowledge.
We concede.
Not a word. And to which I replied, okay.
So we finally made it to our point in this video. Thank you for staying this long. We will finally talk about Gonzaga, the number 1 team in the nation. I cannot believe that it's another week of me saying that. First big win of the season and big win of the season.
If you're still saying that in 2 weeks, you might as well just pre-record it.
again, big win to start off the season against number 6 Kansas, 102-90.
Do you realize how many record books were broken in this game?
It's amazing to see this too. And I don't know which stat is my favorite out of all this.
I know.
It's the points.
It was the first time Kansas has given up 100 points in 31 years.
Yeah,
that's a great one on my book.
But individual stats from the team, I don't know which one's my favorite. If it was the 102 points that they got on Kansas, if it's the 64.5% field goal, if it's the 16 assists, which I guess isn't actually my favorite of those stats, but I think my favorite one out of these is the 5 guys in double digits. It took 5 guys double digits against Kansas. It wasn't this isolation ball. They were passing the ball really well. And those 16
Hang on. Yeah. Hypothetically, if all 5 of those guys only scored 10 points to get their double digits, that's less than half the points we scored.
Right. But I think it was like Drew, Kispert, and Suggs all got 20 points at least.
Yeah.
Those guys definitely. I think Ayayi and Nemhard. I think Nemhard got like 11, so I think he barely made that threshold. But I mean, like, I think that. But I honestly you saw the game, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm surprised it was just 16 assists for how well they were passing the ball just around Kansas. Like, I thought it was Globetrotters out there.
Our assist numbers are going to be much lower this year because we have guards who can drive.
Yeah,
it's no longer going to be about creating space and taking the open shot. We're now going to have guys who can cut, guys who can finish at the rim, and guys who can create their own shot. So I predict one of my very favorite things to do for the past 10 years has been to look at ESPN and look at where Gonzaga ranks nationally in assists per game. Gonzaga has routinely been top 5,
if not top 3.
Yeah, it's always been one or two. We've also been a top 5 scoring offense for all of that time. And usually those numbers have been around 20. I think 16 is going to be par for the course for us this year because our offense flows so differently.
Yeah, it's definitely a different team, and not having that necessarily like very true point guard role. Like they're like that. Like, yes, Suggs is going to be the one that's going to be leading the charge. Ayayi's there to back him up. Maybe we have Cook Jr. to come in, but Ayayi and Cook Jr. aren't like that true point guard role to direct the guys around. And even Suggs isn't.
Well, you saw every time Suggs left the game, you saw our offense start to spurt, like struggle a little bit because there was nobody who had comfort dribbling the ball with full court vision and the ability to handle their defender. Suggs is easily the best of all of them. Nembhard is close. Nembhard, especially considering Nembhard didn't think he was going to be playing.
Yeah, he got the waiver cleared just like the day before.
Yeah. Which I'm sure Bill Self was like, oh man.
Now I'm doing research on this guy in 24 hours.
So we have point guards who are going to definitely give Suggs a break, but our best offense is absolutely with Suggs in.
Right.
And that Kispert, Time, Suggs, Ayayi, Nembhard lineup is, I think, about 12 points per 100 better than any other lineup we had out.
I remember seeing like there's someone did like a big breakdown of all the different lineups that were going around. But then in that game too, like this always surprises. I'm surprised about this every single game that this happens, and I shouldn't be at this point.
Okay.
But Ayayi leading the charge in rebounds.
Ayayi puts magnets inside the basketballs before the game starts.
he led the team in rebounding with 9, and I think 8 of which were defensive rebounds.
Yeah.
Like it's
also what's really fun is to watch him go up because he does this like awkward like turn sideways in the air and just collects the ball.
Yeah.
And be on triple double watch for him this year because the game he goes off on assists, he will get a triple double.
Yes. I don't understand.
And that's the beautiful part and why I think he's an underrated best of at Gonzaga is because he's a guard who can defend a forward and can hold his own in the paint.
Yeah. And kind of what you were talking about before with the assists, I think one thing that we are going to see a big change with this team as well is definitely the three-point shooting.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be a heavy-hitting three-point shooting that we've seen before with when we had like Matthews, when we had
Matisse Moneyhoff,
Norvell Jr., 6 for 18 from three-point shot, and like that, I guess, was the biggest complaint. If you could say that we had
no. Do you know why it's a complaint? Because at one point it was 6 for 9.
It was, yeah, we did go really cold, but like that is, I feel like, and we'll get to this when we talk about Auburn, and then when we get to talk about the upcoming games, especially if we're going to be playing Baylor this week. That's going to be the biggest change, I feel like, from this team. And then 15 turnovers against Kansas. Again, we're playing Kansas, but if we're going to be turning the ball over that many times, it's going to be rough come March. That's 30 points right there if you think about it.
Okay. Here's the thing is we have a pretty good transition defense.
Yeah.
Watson is long and fast.
Watson, yeah.
Suggs is good. Kisper is crafty. And so here's the thing about those 15 turnovers. How many of them were Ballo?
Right. Yeah, I think.
And then,
he had like 4. I think was from him.
And how many were some of those other guys that just are raw, are inexperienced?
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be something. And I mean, this is a younger team too than what we're used to. Like,
but speaking of young teams,
I know the other team that we did beat this last week, Auburn, big win over Auburn, 90-67. Again, Auburn did not get a single vote this year. I know that they weren't top 25 for sure, obviously, but I don't know if they got a vote this year because I think there was a big stink from the Auburn Tiger fans about at least not getting in the top 25.
There was a stink about not being top 25. They self-imposed a postseason ban. They have 9 freshmen and 6 sophomores.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, this is a young team too. So, I mean, honestly, I'm kind of excited to see what Auburn does in the coming years, just to show like, hey, we're just not a football school.
Yeah.
just for that pride of it, just to see Auburn. But again, the Gonzaga stats: 52.9% from the field, 19 assists, 13 offensive rebounds from this team. The biggest thing that I'm gonna say. It's only 3 guys in double digits.
Yeah.
And it was Suggs, Kisper, and Timmy. Like, those were the 3 guys in double digits. And I don't know if someone had 9. I don't know if IAE or Nemhard had 9 points. But that again, kind of talking about like that difference is like that just doesn't feel Gonzaga.
There are a lot of weaknesses on this team when you look at it on paper.
Yeah.
You don't see a lot of the scoring spread around. Now, good luck stopping Timmy from scoring 20 points.
True, I get it. I understand that too. But yeah, that to me surprised me, especially when we were able to get 5 guys against Kansas.
Yeah.
In double-digit points, like to get just 3 against Auburn, even though we scored 90 points.
Yeah.
Like that was a big surprise to me. And again, talking about the 3-point shot, 6 for 21.
So feeding it to Timmy in the post. What ain't broke, don't fix. Timmy had literally 30% of our points.
Right. But yeah, that to me, it's going to be an interesting change this year, especially not having like that 3-point opportunity, not having like those passing abilities. And that being said, the upcoming games this week are going to be harder than what we faced last week, surprisingly.
Yeah.
I mean, West Virginia, again, a top 5 defense that we're going against, I believe, still. Number 15, West Virginia. I don't know if this is 15 as of yesterday or today. I forget which one I put this one as.
They're 11 today.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. They went up in the rankings. West Virginia wins over South Dakota State. Like I was saying, Western Kentucky, we're probably going to be talking about them. West Virginia did barely beat Western Kentucky 70-64. and then Western Kentucky, like I said, we'll be talking about them. Western Kentucky beat Northern Iowa, and they also beat Memphis, by the way. So we will. I'm not gonna lie. I think we're gonna be talking about Western Kentucky soon.
Western Kentucky's gonna be up there.
But those are the wins West Virginia had. West Virginia had the wins over South Dakota State and Western Kentucky. All of their starters are in double-digit points averaging on the season. Only 2 sophomores that they have, and it's a very experienced team. So it's a complete change of what we saw from Auburn. Instead of just having like no seniors, we're now facing a bunch of seniors and juniors, and especially a bunch of big seniors and juniors.
But that's what Huggy Bear does. He runs a deep team who buy into his system. Yeah. But I have a question for you. What is this number?
4.
What is this number?
0.
Why do you think those 2 numbers are relevant?
It honestly, like, that's the question, is it going to continue?
Oh, absolutely.
But I mean, you have from West Virginia, who honestly I think has a better Virginia system than Virginia of a defensive team.
Press Virginia?
Yes.
But you can beat the press. Now, question. Yeah. Do we have 3 point guards on our team?
I mean, yes, we do.
But I mean, the reason we didn't manhandle. The reason we beat Press Virginia on our run to the championship game is because we had a double point guard system.
Yes, we had,
Perk and
Nigel. And that was amazing.
And Perk was honestly better at breaking the press.
Yes.
Now, does Suggs remind you more of Perkins or Nigel? I mean, he can jump higher than Perkins.
Yeah.
Hashtag dunk or not. But
I know.
But Suggs reminds me of Perkins.
He does.
He's got that more athletic. Like, Nigel was a lot smarter and a lot smoother, but Perkins was more athletic. And Suggs reminds me of that. Nembhard has Power 5 basketball experience.
Yes.
Cook is a senior transfer. Do you remember what happened last time there was a grad transfer senior against West Virginia? So I think, here's the thing, is West Virginia is going to demolish teams that get frazzled and fall apart. Mark Few is a top 5 X's and O's coach and player development coach in this country. He is going... His guys are not going to fall apart. They're going to survive and advance. This is the equivalent of an Elite 8 game before a Final 4 game against Baylor.
I mean, that's pretty much what we were facing against with West Virginia anyways last time we faced against them. But I guess the biggest question is, like, are we able to get, or how many points are we going to get in the paint against West Virginia?
Who cares? Honestly, who cares?
And especially what we were talking about before, like, the 3-point shot hasn't been there necessarily this year like it has in previous years.
So if you want to break down a zone, or if you want to break down a press,
it's a press and a zone, because once we get into the offensive half, it's a zone defense and it's a solid zone.
Yeah, it's a matchup zone to be fair. So we can't get loaded or anything. But here's the thing: is Timmy is very capable from the high post, so that's going to be fine. Suggs is unafraid to throw it ahead. So they can't let anybody get by them. And Watson with his length is actually going to be a secret. You're going to see Watson.
I feel like we're going to see him definitely.
You're going to see Watson sitting at the logo as an outlet for the point guards bringing it up, and you're going to see Kispert drifting to a corner almost every single play, and it's going to be honestly, Timmy might get 6 or 7 assists in this game.
Yeah, honestly, just because he's going to throw it out. Like, I can see that.
They're going to dish it to him in the high post. He's going to get collapsed on. He's going to dish it to a corner, and somebody's going to make it rain.
Yeah, I know is it. So it's, I guess what I was going with last video that I posted. Quick takes. I guess who wins? Who's the MVP?
Gonzaga wins.
Okay.
And Suggs is the MVP. Because it's Press Virginia.
No, I can see that. Obviously I'm going to be going for Gonzaga. You're going to go with Suggs. I will go with the other shooter, Kispert. It's going to be one of those two that has to go off, obviously, if we're going to be talking about, like, Well, I mean, it's
Suggs is going to get 12 assists or something like that. It's going to be disgusting.
Yeah, I could. Yeah.
But
he'll probably get a double with assists.
I'm going literally 87, 72.
Yeah, I can see it just because it's going to be a very tough defensive team, like what we've seen before with West Virginia and what we see every year with West Virginia. But yeah, it's. I feel like for me personally, if you just told me that Gonzaga was playing Kansas, West Virginia, Baylor, Auburn, Iowa, and if you told me that we were playing against those guys, West Virginia is the scariest one of them for me.
So they canceled
And then Tennessee.
No, they canceled the NCAA tournament in March. So Mark Few decided to schedule it for November.
Pretty much. That's pretty much what it was. But I mean, if you tell me like Gonzaga has to play those 5 teams, the team that I'm always going to be afraid of each and every year, West Virginia.
Oh, I always...
That's the scariest.
When I fill out my bracket, I always put West Virginia to the Sweet 16, and then I figure it out.
Yeah.
I'm like, nope.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna be scared, and I'm not gonna be able to see the game because I'm gonna be working for those hours, unfortunately, because it's a 4 p.m. on the West Coast on Wednesday.
On a Wednesday? Oh, I can watch that.
I'm gonna be working, unfortunately, so I'm gonna be sweating bullets all game. But the other game that's going to be coming up, that's going to be on the Saturday, number 2 team in the nation who was just last week behind Gonzaga by 1 point. This week, obviously different because Gonzaga just basically got all of Villanova's points. Let's be honest. Baylor.
You can also say that they were up on Gonzaga in the coaches poll.
True, they were. Yeah. But Baylor, the number 2 team, this is basically going to be deciding who's going to be the number 1 team throughout the rest of the season. And I know Baylor has to go through their conference and they're going to get some losses too, but let's just be honest. Like, this is going to decide who's the number 1 team in the nation, or who should have been the number 1 team to start off the season. Baylor and Gonzaga beating the team that I love saying the name for, Louisiana Ragin' Cajuns. I want to say Cajuns.
It's Louisiana Ragin' Cajuns.
I know, Ragin' Cajuns, 112-82, and then beat UW, who's probably not even going to finish in the middle of the Pac-12, but I just kind of want to make that known that UW 86-52. And the stats that I provided you were actually just from the UW game, by the way. That's not the combined average or from probably what you expect from them playing the Ragin' Cajuns. 21 assists on UW, 13 for 29 on 3-point, 50.7% from the field, 20 offensive rebounds. So that was literally, hey, either we make the shot or we're going to get the rebound and make the shot again. And 16 turnovers on UW, though. That's the biggest blemish that I saw out of all of them. But I mean, if you're getting 20 offensive rebounds, does it care if you're going to turn the ball over that many times?
Your next question is, can Gonzaga defend the 3 and the passes? That's not the question.
Yeah.
And the question, looking at the 20 offensive rebounds, can Gonzaga protect the paint?
Right. Yeah.
Can Drew Timme stay out of foul trouble?
Yeah.
That's my concern. Where is our depth in the post? Because Omar Ballo, Baby Shack, you're not ready yet.
Yeah, we didn't see that much this last week, unfortunately, from him.
You're not ready, baby.
I mean, I feel like for this game, talking about Watson, like we'll probably see Watson needed to be more in that center-ish role too, or at least pinch down to help out down low.
But hang on, pause for a moment.
Yeah.
Imagine, if you will, a world in which Filip Petrusev does not go pro, but is instead on this Gonzaga team playing the backup center to Drew Timme.
I would have been a little bit more comfortable. Not gonna lie. I would have been so much more comfortable.
That would have been can we have our national championship and then just not get injured, please?
Yeah. All right. So again, quick takes. Who wins MVP?
If Gonzaga loses a game this year, it's this one. I'm sorry, Iowa. I love you, but no.
Yeah.
So if Gonzaga loses a game this year, it is this one. I'm a homer. I am picking Gonzaga. It is going to be the closest game ever of our year. It's going to be Let's go crazy and say 89-85.
I can see it high. I can see high up like that. MVP.
Kispert.
Obviously, I'm gonna go with Gonzaga. I think it's only gonna be because it's like one of those things where it's like, is it gonna be like I think in reality it's a 2-point win, but it's gonna be like 7 points just because of fouls.
Yeah.
You know, it's probably gonna be one of those games. So I'll go. I want to say it's gonna be up there. I want to say it's gonna be like 95-88. Just because, and again, it's not. I think it should in reality be like 91-88, but it's because they're Baylor's going to foul and Gonzaga's going to get to the line. They're going to make it like a lot more free throws kind of a thing. So I think it's going to be that kind of a game. MVP, if he doesn't foul out, Drew Timme.
Okay.
If he doesn't foul out, it's going to be him. So that's what it's going to be like. Let us know what you guys think are going to be these prediction scores for Gonzaga coming up. Upcoming not so mid-major games, as we talked about, Gonzaga playing West Virginia on Wednesday and Baylor on Saturday the 5th. And then BYU plays USC this week on the
University
first.
of Spoiled Children.
And Utah State. So BYU has some good games coming up. Utah State is another pretty, like, at least notable mid-major team. San Diego State playing Colorado State twice this week on the 3rd and on the 5th. Richmond playing Charleston on the 2nd and Furman on the 5th. St. Louis playing Arkansas Pine Bluff on the 5th, and Loyola Chicago, again, no games this week, and they will be playing their first ever game on December 9th. So we will be talking about them more in 2 weeks, not next week. We'll again mention the same thing of that they did not play a game this week. So let us know what you think, what your predictions are, who is going to be your favorite mid-major team this week. And until next time, please stay safe and please stay healthy.
Also, screw Rutgers.